Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'd like to start with a quote. The ears of the leader must ring with the voices of the people. Great president once said that. Mr. President, I rise today to make it clear to everyone in this chamber exactly why I cannot support this legislation. You've heard the chants outside this chamber, not just today and last night, but many times over the past 2 years. Thousands of people have shown up, union and non-union, men and women, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, even their children. These are the working families of Michigan. These are the thousands of people that I was sent here to represent. When I vote no, I'm voting no on behalf of the thousands of families. Who are you voting yes for? Grover Norquist? I know he sent you all a letter asking you to support this anti-worker legislation. You are voting yes because a handful of corporate lobbyists, a handful of fat cats in the back are telling you to. That's who you work for, the powerful few, the guys with top hats and monocles. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. I work for the people, for the many. I proudly represent them in casting this no vote. I'm doing what's right, what's good for the people. And I tell you this, Mr. President, we will fight you. We will not let this stand. We'll fight you from Kalamazoo to Timbuktu. We'll fight you from the streets and in the suites. We'll fight you in the penthouse and we'll fight you in the outhouse. And Mr. President, I'll tell you this right now, when it's all said and done, when it's all over, we will grab the thunderbolt of truth. We will grab the rod of revolution and we will have our victory. And the spoils will go to the working people of Michigan. And you will forever remember the day when you thought you could conquer labor. You were sorely mistaken. Be prepared to engage in the fight of your life. You might win this battle, but the wars are brewing, sir. The wars are brewing, sir. And we're coming, and we're taking no prisoners, and we're taking no quarter. And Mr. President, when all said is done, working men and women of this state will reign supreme. Thank you, and I ask that my comments be printed in the journal. Hello and welcome to The Young Effect. I am your state senator, soon to be your next congressman, Coleman Alexander Young. What's going on, everybody? How you doing? Always a pleasure to be here with you, broadcasting live from WHPR. You can see us all around the world at www.tv33whpr.com, www.tv33whpr.com. You can call in. Our numbers are 313-868-0351, 313-868-0342, 313-868-0351, 313-868-0342, 313-868-4336. Those are the numbers for you to call in. 313-868-4336 or 313-868-0351. That being said, as always, we're going to honor our troops with a moment of silence, those who served abroad and their families. We also want to honor our domestic heroes, our police officers, firefighters, emergency service personnel for all the services that they provide to this city and this great country. Please join me in a moment of silence as we honor our men and women, our heroes who fight every day for us to have for our lives to be safer, who give the ultimate sacrifice of their lives for the freedoms that we so richly enjoy right here in the good old U.S. of A. Please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Before we begin, I just want to let everybody know that we just came back from New Hope Church in Wayne, Michigan. It was phenomenal. We had a great experience. Went up there and talked to the pastor. The pastor was Virgil Humes. So I want to give a very special shout out to him and everyone out there who allowed me to speak. Dr. Reverend Virgil Humes. So thank you so much for that opportunity for me to be able to speak. And we had a real good time. Also, I just want to let everybody know this is open mic night. So if you want to say what you want to say and speak to it, please feel free. We'll be more than happy to do so. Right now in Lansing, the big moves that everybody is talking about is one, they're talking about the ballot initiative. Is this something that, in terms, when I mean by that, I mean in terms of the marijuana ballot initiative, is this something that we should admit we should pass right now and make it legal? And then after lame duck, they could change the law because by simple straight majority, or should we let this go to the voters and let them decide? And any changes to it will take 2/3 vote from the legislature. I think that we should let this go to the voters. I think that if legalization of marijuana, which I'm an advocate for, a proponent of, if this is something that should take place, I think that this is something that should have taken place a long time ago. If it was going to be passed by the law or legally, we want to legally pass this. I don't think this is something that should be done by initiative. I don't think this is something that should be done by the legislatures. I don't think that politicians should be usurping the right to vote of the people. We've done enough of that with the emergency manager law. And I said that when we pass the emergency manager law, and then we start passing laws appropriating money towards it so we can block people being able to vote via referendum on this down, voting it down via referendum, excuse me. When we did that, it was a slippery slope towards usurping the right to vote and the will to vote of the great state of Michigan. And I'm going to say this too. The right to vote is the most important right. The right to vote is the most important right because it ensures all the other rights. People died for the right to vote. They bled for the right to vote. They sacrificed themselves and their families for the right to vote. For black people to have all the rights available to them as is with every American. And there's nothing more sacred or no precious than the right to vote. And the fact that you have elected officials usurping that, cutting away at that, reducing that, diminishing that, taking away from that, it's wrong. I don't care what the issue is. Now, in this issue, I think it should go to the will of the public. I personally, in America, you are 12 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted of a drug crime if you're African American. 12 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted of a drug crime. If you're black in America, you are 4 times more likely to be arrested for possession of marijuana, even though you use it at the same rate as your white counterparts. 2 times more likely in Wayne, 5 times more likely in Macomb, and 4 times more likely in Oakland. If you use drugs as a black person, you are 6 times more likely to be arrested for it, even though your white counterparts use it more than you do. And you're going to serve sentences of 50% longer. And let me say this. The punishment should never be worse than the crime. Now, I understand there's a problem with drugs, and I'm not saying that we should just be using them freely. We need regulations. We need standards. We need common ways of doing things. I'm not saying we don't.
Our children should have access to them. We all can agree on that. But the war on drugs has been nothing more but a war on black and brown people. And we need to rectify that, I believe, or start to rectify that by ending prohibition on marijuana. All we're doing is locking up black and brown people for low-level drug offenses. It's absurd. The correction system is designed for corrections and rehabilitation, not punishment and profit, not exploitation and subjugation. And that's the system we have now. Also, Memorial Day parade was last week. I went to the city of Melvindale, Romulus, and Inkster's parade and their services. That was really good. Had a good time with that. Also, I just want to say this happy Memorial Day for everyone as well. We won't say happy Memorial Day, but we want to thank God for the men and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice of their lives so that we could be here. We do that every day on this program. We thank God for our soldiers. We celebrate the brave men and women who put their lives on the line for what we have. We got some callers, because after that, I'm going to talk about some legislation I'm working on. Caller, you on the air. Welcome to the Young Effect.
How you doing?
Hey, what's going on? Turn your TV down.
Okay. Now, I wanted to say the war on drugs, like you're saying, is real bad.
Yeah.
And my thing is, people, just because drugs out there, you don't deal with it. Now they got all kinds of legislation, the war against the brown peoples and the black peoples. Just don't fool with the drugs. It's just like if I don't drink, I go in the liquor store. The liquor was legal, but I know situations drunk driving. You have situations like that, and then you have issues, long-term effect down the road. So why bother with it? See, a lot of people use drugs as a scapegoat, but when you soak up, the problem is still there. Take care of the problem. Don't use drugs and alcohol as a scapegoat.
Well, let me say
What's
this.
your opinion about that?
Well,
People just weak, that's all.
Well, listen. Let me say this. I understand exactly what you're saying. You're making an excellent point. You know what I'm saying? Just don't mess with it, and you'll be fine. The only problem is that in America, if you're African American, you 7 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted of a drug crime. So that means you ain't even got to be the one using or dealing the drugs, and you still get arrested. And let me say this. I do not like and refuse to live in a country where you have people who are facing 20 years for selling $15 worth of weed, but you got major financial institutions that are laundering money for drug cartels, and none of those guys go to jail. But little Ray Ray on the corner selling $15 worth of weed faces 30 years for it. There's something fundamentally wrong with that picture. And if drugs were such a scourge and they were so bad, everybody should be arrested at the same rate. I, as an African American person, shouldn't be 4 times more likely to be arrested for something that my Caucasian brothers and sisters do at the same rate that I do. There's something wrong with that. That's called systemic institutional racism. Because the war on drugs was never about stopping people from using drugs. It was about arresting the people who use them at first, which were, arresting certain people who use them, which were black and brown folks at first. Matter of fact, you can listen to what Richard Nixon's chief advisor said. He said, what? He said, John Alderman, who said, we got a problem in this country. We got a problem with this country, and it is with Negroes and with hippies. Now, we can't arrest them because they're Negroes and hippies. This is what he said. But we can associate the hippies with marijuana and the Negroes with cocaine and criminalize both heavily. We can target their meetings. We can raid their houses. We can lock them up. And we can vilify them on the nightly news. Did we know that the war on drugs was a lie? Of course we did. That's from Richard Nixon's chief policy advisor, the person who started the war on drugs. You go back even further, John Anslinger, who was with the Bureau of Narcotics before it became the Department of before it became the Drug Enforcement Agency, or the DEA. And he said that marijuana is bad because it makes white women susceptible to sleeping with Negroes. He said that in front of Congress. So I understand what you're saying about just don't use drugs, and I'm not encouraging people to use marijuana. But if that's what you choose to do, I don't think you should be arrested for it. And I don't think that the punishment for a crime should be worse than the crime itself. And if you are addicted to it, you should have treatment programs available. We should have health care programs available. There's all kinds of treatment programs that you can have in clinics and things of that nature that you could be able to go to. And let me say this too. I think when you're talking about the opioid epidemic, you're talking about people who are addicted to fentanyl, which is much more stronger than street market heroin, legally. And we're not advocating for locking folks up. And opioids is the problem across the country. Not that you can go downriver to Michigan, you can go to West Virginia. You can go to a lot of places across the country where people are addicted to opioids. Opioids is such a problem in this state, companies have stopped testing for opioids when hiring folks. Because they said if we continue to test for opioids, we won't have any employees. 1 out of 3 companies in this state do not test. So they are getting rid of that impediment for folks out across the state and in the suburbs. And I'm saying we should treat marijuana, which is much less addictive. Caffeine, scientifically it's been proven that caffeine is less addictive than marijuana. More addictive, than marijuana. So you know what? I'm on the show right now. Okay, so we got some callers. We gonna take a break and have you come on, and then you can talk about this. Is my mother back here? I'm having 2 conversations. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Auntie. Kathy. Hello. Who is it? We got somebody else on the line? Is somebody else on the line? Okay. So like I was saying, hello? Okay. So like I was saying earlier, caffeine is less addictive than marijuana is. Okay? Scientifically proven as such. So when you have this issue and you have these facts that are coming out, I don't see why this is being prohibited. I don't understand it. All these lives that have been destroyed, all these families where their fathers have been pulled away from their daughters and their mothers are locked up. They're pulled away from their children and their sons going to prison for low-level drug offenses. It's wrong. All it's doing is adding to the prisoner industrial complex. There are more black people in prison now than there were slaves during 1850. During Civil War. That is not coincidence. So that's why I believe that. Also, in other news, because I don't know how to segue to this, in other news, legislation that police, listen, like I said earlier, last week I found information that there were police officers that were having, that police officer could make whoopee or have sexual relations with someone in their custody and it not be a crime. They're detainees and it not be a crime in 35 states. Michigan is one of those states. We are drawing up legislation right now in order to prevent that from happening. That's a big deal. The fact that you have folks who are basically, that you have a police department or you have anyone. And let me say this too, because let me back up, because I'm not saying all police are doing this, and I'm not saying, I'm not trying to paint DPD or anybody with this issue at all. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, the fact that someone could do this, or there's a potential to do this, is wrong. And beyond contemptible. We have to be able to make sure that everyone has a set of rules, a set of equal rules in terms of everybody has the same rules of the road, everybody has the same rules on the playing field. And the fact that you have police officers who potentially could do this, I think it's just mind-boggling that this is not, I mean, this is just one of those things where it's like, how is this not a law already? How could this possibly actually be happening? So we're working on it right now, and I'll definitely will update you in the future in terms of what's happening and what's going on with that. I think that's something that's going to be very important, especially today's era, especially the Me Too era. I think that's definitely something that we need to work on, not just in terms of making sure that we protect not women, but also men and anybody involved. There's a lot of things you're going to have on your mind when it being a detainee of a police officer. Being sexually assaulted or raped should not be one of them by the police. So I think this is something that's going to work. I think in the long term, this is a really good thing. And I think that, and let me just say this too, because I'm hearing this, and I'm going to kind of segue into this too. There's been people who I've heard about this conversation about the Me Too movement that are saying this is going too far, this is being too aggressive, that this is something that is casting too wide of a net, that people are losing their jobs over small things. Let me say this: to be a person who is sexually assaulted is probably one of the most, I can only imagine, I've never, I've never had it happen to me. Probably could be one of the most violating, one of the most dehumanizing, the most powerless, the most painful, and most malevolent thing that anyone can have happen to them. And when you're in that position as a victim, you got as a victim, the first thing you think about is, if I come out and say this, am I going to be vilified? If you're a woman, it's called slut shaming. If I go out there and say these things, are they going to just say I'm promiscuous or fast and loose? Is it going to cost me my job? What are the downsides of this? And so you hold it back and you bottle it up because you put your career, which you care about and you love so much, and you work so hard to get to this point. Because you're a woman, a lot of times in this world, you have to work twice as hard to get half as far. So you work so hard to get to this point, and then you get there, and that happens to you. And you decide to choose your career that you poured your blood, sweat, tears, and toil into. And for maybe 20 years, maybe 30 years, maybe 40 years, whatever, the incident passes. But it's still there. You still remember it. You still think about it. You still look at yourself in the mirror and remember it and feel less than about it and demeaned because of it. You might be ashamed of it. And then someone on the internet has the courage to stand up and say, no more. This is not right, and I'm going to speak my truth. You don't think there's not going to be a backlash of women who can understand that, relate to that, and be willing to speak out against that? I don't think it's gone too far. I don't think it's gone too far at all. I think what we need to do in this society is examine why it took so long for this to happen in the first place. And what kind of laws and policies do we need to create and make and put on the books to make sure this doesn't happen again? That's what I think. We got some callers? Caller, you on the air. Welcome to the Young Effect. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Hi. I see that I can hear you, but you can hear me. This is Kathy from the East Side.
Okay, hello.
Thank you for taking for my call. And I appreciate you talking about women as being considered less than. You know, as a black woman, I have two strikes against me, being a woman and being black.
Okay.
And like I tell my son, who is a black young man, he has a target on his back. So we all have to be bigger, better, smarter than anyone else. I just appreciate you talking about this subject, which has been swept under the table, under the rock. No one wants to talk about what women have gone through for years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not right. I just appreciate you as being my state rep, my state senator, and now, hopefully, with prayer, our next congressman. I just appreciate everything that you've done for us. I've seen your work. I see what's done for the state of Michigan, not just in your district. And it's just very refreshing to see a true politician, a true politician. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you. I appreciate your call. Thank you so much. We got another caller? Okay, press the button. Hello? Okay. Well, no, I thank you, Kathy, for calling. I really appreciate that. yeah, I think that's a big issue. I think it's a big deal. And I think the fact that you got people who basically are women who have been going through this for years and not being able to say anything about it. And now, because this hashtag started, have been able to speak their truth about this, I think is something that we should have had a conversation about a long time ago. We on the caller? Hello, caller? Okay. So that's why I think it's important to have this dialogue. Let me also say, I think as a society, this is the conversation that we need to have. And we need to be very careful about how we interact and communicate with one another in the workplace. Now, I think it's inappropriate. I'm not trying to tell, I don't think the government should be telling people whether or not they should be in relationships. That's obviously up to your place of employment, about fraternization policies and what have you. But I think a conversation needs to start, and an action plan needs to form after that conversation about what is the best way in order to prevent these things from happening and give women or men who've been abused a voice. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Wave your hands, Dr. C.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can't hear anything. Can you wave your hands? Okay, thank you. Now I know you can hear me. We can hear you through the phone, but
what is going on?
Thanks for waving your hands. Apartheid America tells of two Detroits. One is totally respected and robs the others of resources, and they are everything works. They light. They don't have blackouts. The old Detroiters are disrespected, robbed, and totally neglected. We're constantly having blackouts in different parts of the city, but I'm sure the blackout didn't affect the Grand Prix. The water shut off once again, targeting poor people because they won't adopt a plan that would make it affordable for everybody to have water. Welfare Rights presented this plan, and another state took it and ran with it, but Detroit didn't. So they're using water to weaponize, to gentrify, and commit genocide. Not to mention the fact that you can break up families because they'll take the children away from you. So we definitely need you in that congressman seat. Please, people, get out and vote. It's very important who you put in power, because those people that go to Mackinac Island, they care less about you being educated. They care nothing about human rights. They take your tax money and spend it on Olympics, on gyms and stadiums, but they won't take your tax money to save your children and build their education or their schools to be in conditions for them to be in. Won't give them air conditioning. They give them mold. Won't give them clean water. They give them poison. So we definitely have to watch who we put in power, because as you see now, those that have those seats and making those decisions care little to nothing about your community, your children, and your children's children. Thank you for taking my call. I'll hang up now so I can hear you. I have to turn my TV back up.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your call. Thank you so much for calling in. I just wanted to say also, I think water shutoffs is a big problem. And I think that what we need to start doing is investing more in our waterways and our water infrastructure. Let me say this. You lose there's 250,000 water main breaks in America every year. I think it's about 8 billion gallons of water, if I'm not mistaken, that's lost every year. And one of the things we need to start doing, first of all, we need to start going to state revolving funds, as well as the Water Infrastructure Financial Innovation Act, as well as looking at public-private partnerships and working with the economic development infrastructure program that they have to be able to rebuild our water systems, and also start looking at implementing and incentivizing local governments to implement dig once policies, so that they can also, when they're digging up this road and they're building the pipes and they're building the roads, that they also build broadband in there as well. So not only we can deal with water infrastructure problems that we have, because 30% of the water that DWSD generates is lost due to leaks, according to a 2015 study. So I think we also need to look at, green infrastructure as well, whether it's xeriscaping, whether it's vegetative drainage, bioswales, vegetative drainage, whether it's permeable concrete, where you actually have concrete set up that will be able to absorb the water once it rains and things of that nature, so we can take pressure off of the combined sewer overflow system that we have, because, we have a combined sewer overflow. That means you have all your water in one pipe. We also need to invest more money for asset management, and also invest more money, give locals more money so they can be able to expand the pipe capacity. Because right now our wastewater, our rainwater, and our chemical water all goes into one pipe. So we need to be able to fit. So I think if we look at those things in terms of innovations, as well as getting rid of, as well as open up the private activity bonds cap, so we can invest more than $2 billion into our infrastructure that way, I think this would be more money available for us to invest in our roads and our bridges. Invest in our waterways and our water infrastructure, whether it be green infrastructure or whether it be gray infrastructure. We got another caller? Call you on the air. Welcome to the Young Effect. Hello?
Young.
Yes.
How you doing, sir?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I appreciate you talking to the improportionality and sentencing in the state of Michigan, well, actually across the country.
Yeah.
Anytime you got somebody that get more time for marijuana than someone who is a pedophile, something is definitely wrong in this country.
Yeah. I totally agree with you,
that.
man. I mean, I totally agree with you. I think the fact that you have the system that's been designed to lock up black and brown people, the fact that 66% of the prison population is made up of black and brown folks, that's not a coincidence to me. I mean, you look.
Well, I want to point something out to you.
Go ahead.
Senator Young, soon to be our next congressman.
That's right.
If you do the history, do the research on the proportionality just in the state of Michigan. If you go to Traverse City and you line up the exact same crime that was committed in Detroit, you would realize, or you would see, that they receive less time for the same type of crimes that we commit, or our people or somebody have committed in Wayne County and or Detroit, and we receive way more time than they receive in like Alpena, Traverse City, Bay City, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm talking about the exact same crime, almost the exact same nature of the crime, et cetera, but yet they receive way less time when it comes down to sentence. That is one of the most racist improportionality systems that we have. Is the court system here in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, it's ravaging the black community. I mean, a lot of times people say, where are the black men at? And well, most of them are either in prison for low-level drug crimes, or they're in jail and can't afford the bail to get out. And that's about 450,000 people in this country. So I totally understand exactly what you're saying. I mean, you got black folks that are spending, that are not only getting locked up at larger rates for doing the same crime, you know what I'm saying, but but being arrested at higher rates. If you're a black person, you're 3 times more likely to be arrested, 3 times more likely to be pulled over. No, 3 times more likely to be pulled over, 3 times more likely to have your car searched, or 3 more times likely to be arrested. And you know, I mean, so you have that.
You definitely hit it on the head.
Yeah, man. You got that, you know what I mean, that's going on. And you likely, once you get sentenced, to serve a sentence of 50% longer than your Caucasian counterparts.
That's right.
And a lot of this has to do with the war on drugs. I even think the way in which a lot of young African-American men are being treated now through stop and frisk has to do because of the war on drugs, quite frankly. Because police officers took a much more aggressive policy because of the war on drugs. You have folks coming in with tanks and kicking down doors and all this type of stuff because of the war on drugs. I'm not saying this is the only reason, but I think it's one of it. One of the major reasons of why they're doing this. And, you know, I think it's harming not only the black community, I think it's divided America, what we're doing right now. We got to have, and I'm not saying that all police officers are bad. That's not what I'm saying. Most of them are hardworking American heroes. But we want to praise those who do right, and we want accountability for those who do wrong. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Right. They have the tendency to come into the community, and they want to encourage our brothers and sisters to snitch, rat, inform, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
on regular, everyday citizens, but yet police officers not held to that same accountability when it comes down to that blue wall of silence.
Well, you know, that's a real good point right there. And I think that's something that's not really talked about enough, is the fact that you need police officers to be speaking out, because you know who they are. And you know what they're doing, because there may be only 1 or 2 police officers that are doing this type of stuff. It's not a whole lot of them. But it's a lot of other people who are quiet about it. And that's what's wrong.
Right, they quiet. They don't
Quiet.
tell.
You don't say nothing about it.
There'll be paralysis in their own community,
That's right.
that police community. You know, so they don't. They want to encourage us, or they want to encourage the citizens to give information on crime, but yet the crime that's being committed by officers is not being reported.
Everybody needs to start talking more. Everybody needs to start talking more. If you see a crime, you need to speak out to it.
Everything
Everybody needs
that
about
you've been talking about
accountability.
today is about accountability, and we appreciate anybody that's willing to put it on the table, that's actually sitting in a political seat, that's saying that this is not right. And
not
I'm
right.
looking at it from the inside, not from the outside in, but from the inside out.
Well, all right,
We
brother.
appreciate you and we salute you, bro.
Appreciate you, brother. You take care now. Love you, my friend. We got another caller. Caller, you on the air. Welcome to the Young Effect.
Hello,
Hello?
this is Kathy again.
Can you hear me?
I don't know what's going on with the radio and the TV station, but this is pretty bad. But that's okay. I'm calling in to say, or to ask, if you were to Mackinac, I heard somebody else talk about Mackinac, and I understood you put up on a plantation like the rest of the folks do every year.
Well,
To
what's
black
going-
folks serve you and to be, you know, indentured slaves up
Yeah.
there at the big house. And
Yeah.
if you did, how did it go? I just think it's such a farce, and I think it's just ridiculous that they all go up there and all those black folks are serving them. It's just utterly a kick in the face whenever I think about them going up to Mackinac and
Hey.
hearing why only black
Can
folks
we
up
still
there
fix it, man?
serving them. I just wanted to see if you went up there and if you did, what did you accomplish, if anything? Thank you.
All right, listen, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate what you're saying. I want to thank you so much for that. To answer your question, listen, yeah, look, there's a lot of good things about going up there and talking to people and building relationships and seeing what's going on. You got a lot of movers and shakers that are up there. So you get to hear about firsthand what's happening, what's going on. I can totally understand what you talk about in terms of being a culture shock, or in terms of just some of the things that are happening and how they're doing things that can change. You know what I mean? In terms of what they're doing, the way they're doing it, and who they're hiring practices and things of that nature. So, I mean, That I understand. But overall, I thought it was a good experience. You know what I mean? They don't have any cars on the island. You know what I mean? So, you got a lot of horses and, so you basically looking at the back of a horse. Right? I walked, most of the time this day. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it was definitely eye-opening. I saw the gubernatorial debate that they had up there. That was pretty good. So, hold on. We got some more callers. Caller, you on the air. Welcome to the Young Effect. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you hear me?
Hello, Coleman?
Yes.
Hello? No, I can't hear you through the phone.
Just keep talking.
I can't hear you through the phone.
Just keep talking.
Okay, I'll keep talking. My thing is talking to you about the workplace as far as the women is concerned.
Yeah.
That's a two-way street, but also, we're westernized with how the white man has treated his women. Also, I wanted to ask you this. They put something out about Reggie Reg, about he supposedly become a beater of women and old back child support. And also, they supposed to have took him off the ballot. I want you to answer that for me because I'm not trying to bash him because it's important that I know what happened. Okay, I love you.
Love you too. Appreciate you. I'll answer that right away. In terms of the first question, I mean, listen, I don't necessarily. I mean, it's always going to be, it can always be he said versus she said, or what have you. That's what we have court. That's what we have a legal system for in litigation in terms of solving that, making that happen, proving that. And that's why you're innocent till proven guilty. In terms of the latter question, with Reggie Reg, is my understanding that he's no longer on the ballot. I don't know a whole lot about his personal history, so I'm not trying to go into something I don't know, and I'm not trying to talk this brother out, call this brother out, but I think he's the commissioner now. I'm sure you could call his office, and they'll be gladly to be able to talk to you, respond to you there. I think that's according to the Fox 2 report about him, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know a whole lot about that, and I really don't want to comment on something I don't know a whole lot about. But, but from what I saw, it seems like he's trying to get his life together. He's gone the right path. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing. So that's something to talk to his staff about. We got another caller? Caller, you on the air? Welcome to the Young Effect.
Hi, you guys. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, no,
Oh,
you
okay.
can't hear me.
I'm going to just keep talking. From what I heard, Reggie Reg did not make his name, did not get to the ballot. So so far, the word is out that Reggie Reg did not make it, get enough petitions or whatever was needed to get on the ballot at this time. So, like you said, you can call his office and find out the confirmation on what's going on with Reggie Reg. Human economic cost of inequality, confronted with undeniable truth of unconscionable cruelty to our fellow human beings, we must join the ranks of those who are determined not to rest until justice and equality is a reality. So, in saying all that, I'm reading it from the Auditing America report that reveals all this evil that's going on, systemic racism and poverty that's going on in this country. Once again, people, it is important who you put in positions. You need someone that's going to go up there and fight against the draconian laws that's set up to hurt you and to cause you to pay for your own pain. Because the way they stealing our tax dollars, that's exactly what they're doing. They're making us pay for our own pain.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? Instead of money going to your schools, it's going to billionaires to build, what do you call those things, stadiums and statues. So my vote is with you, Coleman, because you've already brought the issues, and you've already been fighting, for laws to help us. So once again, people, please study and research these people before you put them in office, or decide you're not going to vote. Because, like I said, not voting is like giving your vote and supporting your own demise at the same time. Thank you for taking my call. Love you. Mwah, mwah.
Love you too. Bye now. We got another caller. Call you on the air. Wilton Young Fed. Hello.
Hello, Senator.
Yes.
This is Kathy for the third time. This is I've never done this before.
I see.
So please forgive me for calling into your show so many times.
That's all right.
But I just wanted to ask again about your trip to Mackinac. Was it successful? What was the purpose of going up there to the plantation? And was it something that you needed to do? Thank you.
Well, thank you for your call. I appreciate that, Kathy. Yeah, I went up there. I wanted to talk to people and see what's going on around the state. I want to go in there and talk to certain people and get a feel for what's happening. I did that. It was very successful. We talked about my campaign and things of that nature as well. I talked about my support of a revenue sharing bill that I have that'll basically protect more money for police, fire, emergency services personnel, and garbage pickup and things of that nature from the state. So these are things that I was doing and going up there talking to them about that. It was very successful. Had a little conversation with John Boehner too. We talked a little bit about certain things. We talked about marijuana prohibition as well. So overall, it was a good experience. I saw the governor's debate that was up there. It was pretty good. I didn't like the fact. I don't know if he was actually saying this, but it kind of seemed like he was kind of blaming Flint for a lot of the leadership problems that they had up there. And I'm thinking to myself, regardless of what happened in Flint, they didn't poison their own water supply. That was a state decision. So I thought that was pretty disgusting. But other than that, I thought it was a pretty good event. I thought it was a pretty good thing. And so, yeah, it was successful. We got another caller? No? Okay. So, yeah, that's it. So that's what we're talking about. Listen, I'm sorry about this hearing issue. We'll make sure that we'll take care of this and it won't happen again. This is something that's repeatedly going on. And I'm going to talk to my guys in the back and handle this as soon as this show is off. So, but since we're here and I got a couple minutes left, what I want to spend this time talking about as well is something that I'm kind of seeing around. I don't know if you've seen these new billboards that have been out, but basically these billboards that have been out have been involved with auto insurance reform. I think it's something that's very necessary from a state perspective. Federally, there's not a whole lot you can do about it because the McCarran-Ferguson Act says if you try to regulate state insurance for one state, you have to pass that regulation throughout the entire country. So everybody's auto insurance markets are different, and now it's basically passed so that insurance companies can get basically so they could get they would be immune or they would not have to coincide with the antitrust laws or adhere to the antitrust laws. They'd be exempt from the antitrust laws. So I think that's not something that should happen in any industry, quite frankly. But let me say this is what. But anyway, back to the topic at hand, which is auto insurance. Listen, we're talking about. I've been talking with Joe Hume for a while as the chairman of auto insurance of the Senate about getting things done, about making sure that we can work together for the greater good of getting these things done. I think that we're close to doing something. I don't like the fact that you have people that are basically talking about something that's, about we need choice of auto insurance and not really understanding the issues in hand. Because just because you pass a law that provides choice of auto insurance doesn't necessarily mean it's going to lower auto insurance rates for Detroiters, one, because the policy that was put before had nothing to do with stopping redlining or charging based on territory. That's where people garage their car. It doesn't do anything with stopping, giving discounts or charging rates if you group insure based off of people's credit. Doesn't do anything about making the Michigan Catastrophic Claims Association that $191 fee that you pay to the insurance industry every year by law, by mandate, by requirement, to the Michigan Catastrophic Claims Association, which the people who sit and control this money are all work for insurance industry. All of them work for the insurance industry. It doesn't do anything to make sure that's transparent. We also don't have anything in there to make sure that the insurance commissioner has prior approval, not where insurance companies just file and use the rates they have like they do currently. The insurance commissioner needs to be elected. We need an efficiency standard so that the money that's going to the insurance companies actually goes towards providing the service of insurance, not to them padding their profits and buying swanky offices. We also need to reduce, deal with redlining. We also need to reduce lawsuits in the system, which is why I think we need to turn back the DeVillers decision, which basically says in order for you to get benefits, you have to sue. That was a Supreme Court decision in 2005. And I think we need a mandated rate rollback. I think of at least 65%. These are the things that we need in order to keep insurance rates down in this state. And the choice plan is not really dealing with any of that, I think, of any sincerity or seriousness. All right. With that being said, that's my time. Listen, nobody cares how much you know till they know how much you care. I'm your state senator, Coleman Alexander Young II. I'm running for Congress of the 13th District. And with your vote and support, I know I'm going to win. I'll see you next time right here on The Young Effect, family.